This is going to be a full Scrapy project. It's a storefront website. We're going to be taking some basic product information. It's HTML and we're going to be doing pagination. So let's get started. So I am loving PyCharm at the moment, so that's what we're going to be using. I've got a project started inside my virtual environment. Let's pip install Scrapy. And now we can do cd into our project folder, Scrapy gen spider. I'm calling this tiles. And this is the website here. So I'm just going to grab the end of the URL there just for my spider. There we go. So now if I come over to the file manager, I should have my project folder, and then here is the actual spider itself. Let's get rid of the terminal, make this nice and big. So I'm going to go ahead and come to the website now. We can see that we have some products here. If I scroll down, we've got different pages. This is the easiest way that pagination will happen for you. It says the page, when you change, just goes products, page /2/3, etc. So I'm going to go back to 1, you can see it changes. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our URL to that, products/page/1. Now what we want to do, let's move our project out of the way. Now what we want to do is look inside the Scrapy shell so we can work out where the bits of information is that we want and how we're going to get them out. So in the terminal, I'm going to do Scrapy shell, and then we're going to grab the URL up here. In fact, we could just take it from here, and let's paste that in and let's run that. Now hopefully we don't get any errors, and we should have our 200 response up here. So we can clear that up, and if I type in the word response, now we get our 200. So what we need to do now is we need to start looking at the website and seeing how we're actually going to pull the data out from each of these respective products. So if we open it back up, we want to use the inspect element tool here. I'll move this down. Let's make this full screen. There we go. So it's at the bottom. What you want to do is you want to hover over one of the main products just so it gets everything, and we can see there that we have our UL class of products, and if I collapse all of these, each of these represents a product on the page. So what do we want to do? Well, we know that we want to be inside this UL class, and we want this LI, this list item class. But this is a really, really long convoluted name, but fortunately using Css Selectors, we don't have to worry about that. This one's nice and easy. So let's go ahead and grab this, and let's come back over here, and let's do response.css, and let's go for our UL, which was products, and we use a dot for the class, and then a space and the LI. So this is where all the information is. So let's save that in a variable now. So let's do products is equal to, and it was response.css ul.products li. So this is going to be where all of our product information is. Now within Scrapy you can do .get, and that will get you the first one with all of the information. So just scanning through this, we can see that actually down here is kind of where there's a lot of information within these, but we could go ahead and get that, but it's going to be nice and easy just to get it out of the HTML, because I can see already here there's the price, and I can see there's lots of information. There's a name in the alt tag, and there's an h2 class with the title as well, so that's going to be nice and easy. So we want to start by thinking about what bits of information that we want. So I'm just going to make some notes up here in my code. And in fact, what we can do is we can grab this first bit right away and stick that in, because we are going to want that in there. So what bits of information do we want? Well, we want the name. I'm going to say SKU, name, and price. There's 3 bits of information. This is just so I can make notes from when we are working down here. Working in the Scrapy shell, we can actually use for loops as well. It will work with Python. So let's do for p in products, and then indent, and let's do p.css, and I saw that there was an h2 tag. Let's do .text and .get. There we go, that's all of the names for the product. So all I've done here is I've looped through each one of the li tags that I saved into our products, and we are looking for the CSS selector that matches the h2, and we're asking for the text, and we're doing .get just to get the text information. So I'm going to copy this because we know that this works. Let's put this up here as well. And p.cs, this was the name. So let's do name, fact, we want to do it like this. Name is equal to, excuse me, that. There we go. So the next bit of information we want is SKU. So if we go back to our products.get, and we look around here, we're looking for where we can find the SKU of the item. So for me, I found it here already, data product ID. If you don't know where, or you're still looking for it, you can just come into the inspect element again and have a look around here. There's data product ID and data product SKU. So this is what we want. So let's go back to our code. Now how are we going to get that out? Data product SKU here. It's within this whole tag here. So where is it? It's in this A class button tag. So let's do for P in products, and let's do, I think it was p.css, and it was an A tag, so a.button. And let's do .get, and we can see that we have now got all of those A tags, and that actually has the data product SKU part in it. So now we just need to access that attribute. So let's do it again. And we do the double colon ATTRs and paste that in and enter, and that didn't work. Why didn't we get it? Oh, is it ATTR? No S. So let's run that again. There we go. So this one didn't actually have a SKU, which is interesting, but the rest of them do. So now that I know that this is where the SKU information is, we can put that in there. And the last bit of information we wanted was the price. So I'm just going to delete this now. I'll tidy this up in a minute, don't worry. I'll show you it all. So we're going to go back to products.get, which was the main bit of information. That's the price there. And it's in this BDI tag, which is interesting because if we have a look through here, and I use the inspect tool, we can see that we have the span here, class WooCommerce price amount, and then this BDI tag here, which actually just has this information in it here. So I'm assuming we can probably just grab this BDI tag, or you could go span class price BDI. So let's do that just to make it a bit easier. So let's go back to our loop, and we want to get rid of all of this, and let's do span price BDI text dot get, and I missed a end of my quote mark. There we go. So that is all the pricing information. So now we know that. Let's copy this and put that in there. Right, we're finally done with the terminal now. We're done with the shell at least. We'll need the terminal again in a second. But if we come back here, what we actually have is where the product information that we're looking for is stored. So let's get rid of our pass. So we want to return this information somehow to the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to yield all of this out. And I'm going to change this all to a dictionary just to show you. So we're going to say the key is name, and the key SKU and price. And let's change this over like so. So we know it's a dictionary, and we need our commas at the end because it is a dictionary. So we're just about there with the very bare bones of our scraper. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to test it and see where we're at. So I'm going to come back to the terminal. Let's scoop this down a bit so it's a bit tidier. And we're going to do Scrapy, crawl, and tiles, which was the name of our spider. And we're going to see what we get and if we need to make any changes. So I can see we've got item scraped count is 9, which is good. And I can see here, there is our dictionary that we're returning with the name and the SKU and the price. So we're happy that this is working. We're actually getting the first page only. So now we need to work on our pagination. Now to do that, what we're going to do is essentially say within our response, if you find this link, which is for the next page, follow it and then come back to our pass function. And if you don't, it's going to end. Now to do that, I'm actually going to head back to the shell because we want to see how the pages work. So if we scroll down, and we can see the little page buttons down here. This is very common. There is almost always a next one. So let's click on that. and we can see we have this li tag, list tag, a class, next page. And also this is inside the unordered list class of page numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to find this element, then this one based on this class, and we're going to grab the href. So I'm going to copy this, we're going to head back over here, and we're going to say inside our pass function that the next page is equal to response.css, and it is going to be equal to whatever we find down here. So let's do response.css, and it was a UL with page numbers, then li.next for the class. Let's try that, attr href as before .get. Okay, so that looks quite long and convoluted, but all we're doing is that's the first element, and then inside that one, that's the next element, and we're asking for the attribute of the href for that. That's not working, so let's go back and let's find out where we went wrong. So that exists. There's some li class next. No. Okay. That's because it's an a tag. That's why. So if we go back up here, you can see I was looking for the list item with the next attribute, but it wasn't. It was an a tag, obviously, because it's a link. There we go. So I can copy this, and let's put that in. And now we will have our next page link. So what we can do is we can say if next page is not none. So basically, if it exists, we can join it together. So let's do next page is equal to response.url join, like this, next page. And once we've got our URL all nice and done, we can yield our scrapy.request to the next page, and then the callback is equal to self.pass. So this might look a little bit more, we don't need those parentheses there. And this should be response. Thank you. So this might look a little bit more complicated, but all it's doing is it's basically saying that we're looking for this link inside the href on this a tag. And if it exists, we are creating our full URL if we need to, and then we're going back and creating a request for that next page back to this pass function. So it will keep going through this until it doesn't find that anymore. So now when we run this, let's close out of our shell. So if we go back to crawl, we should get all the items on all the pages, and we should see page 1. Okay, we've got scraped count is still 9, and that is because we haven't changed this up here. So this error basically means that it's not going to go to this page because it thinks it's off-site, but I think that's just because I've made an error in my allowed domains up here. I left that trailing slash. So if we run it again, hopefully we'll get all the pages now and all the products. Yes, there we go. You saw the page numbers come by. So you just got to make sure that you have your allowed domains correct. And now we have a total scraped count somewhere around here, please. 25. So that's 25 items, and I believe that's correct to the page. So this is all well and good, but what you might want to do is you might want to consider tidying up the data that you get back by using the items and the item loader. Now what that will do is will mean that the item has to conform to the parameters that we give it, and using the loader we can actually remove parts of the data that we don't need as it goes in. It makes everything a lot neater and tidier. So to do that, we need to create an item first. So I'm going to come over to the folder browser here, and I'm going to open up this items.py. So within here, we see it says we can define the models for our scraped items. So this is basically just going to keep everything neat and tidy by actually defining how our data should look. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to, we can leave this as this name, or you can change it if you have multiple different items. We're only going to have one because we're only getting the products from this page, whereas if you were getting more items from the same website, different items, you'd want to use this and separate them out nice and neatly. So I'm going to say, let's change this to skew is scrapy.field, and we've got two other ones, which is name and price. So we could just use the item, but I want to use the item loader as well, because that's going to allow us to do a bit more data cleaning and make it a bit tidier for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the item loader in here. So we're going to do from item loaders.processors, because these are what we're going to use on our data. We want map compose and take first. So map compose just lets us execute functions onto the fields of data, and take first lets us take the first item if that finds multiples. And we're also going to do from w3 lib, and we're going to .html, sorry, we're going to import the remove tags function. So this is going to be the function that's going to remove all of the HTML data from around the information that we want. So we actually did that already over here with .get, but we're going to do it through the item loader instead. It's just an easier way. Back to our main spider file now, we need to import our item into our main file so we can use it. It is a class, so we can import it directly in here. So we can do from, and I'm using the double dots just to go back up, from items to import the, what do we call it? Scrapy tiles item. There we go. What we can do now is just tidy up our parse bit here a little bit to actually work with the item loader. So let's import the item loader as well. Let's import, and we want to do from scrapy.loader import item loader. Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to remove some of this. I'm going to take this because we're doubling up here. We don't need to do that. Let's put that in there so we can remove this line here. And we're going to no longer yield a dictionary because we're going to be taking the data and loading it into our item and then returning our item back. So if we're going to leave this outside here, and we'll come back and remove it when we're done. But what we want to do now is create our instance of the item loader, and in the documentation it just shows IL, so I'm going to do that. Item loader, and now we can give it the item that we are importing. So item is equal to this Scrapy tiles item that we have imported from our items file here. So this is what we're bringing in, and we're telling it we can use it with the item loader. Now I like to use CSS selectors. So when we want to use this item loader, we need to say that our selector is equal to, and the P here, because this is the selector that we're going to be using. You see I've got P and I've got P all the way down here. So we need to give it that there as well. Now we can just add these in. So il.add CSS, and we want to say which field do we want to put it into. We'll do skew first, skew, and then we're going to say let's get the skew data, which is from here. And the next one, il.add CSS, and we'll do name next, and the name data, which comes from this h2 tag here. So we can just put h2. And finally the price, add CSS, price, and let's grab this bit of code here and put that in. Now what we want to do is we would want to return this out. So we want to yield out the il.load item. So this is now redundant. Let's get rid of that. And what we've done instead is we've created our instance of the item loader class using our item, which has the defined fields over here, and saying that our selector is P because we are inside here, we're inside our for loop with P. And now we want to think about what we want to do with that data when it comes over. So we want to basically say in here which bits of these we want to use. So now I know that when we were looking at the skew, it was already just a number. So we don't need to worry about the tags or the map compose, but we do want to use the output processor. So you can use an input and an output processor. The output processor is the one that we're going to use in this case. So we're just going to say output underscore processor is equal to take first. So this is going to basically make sure that we return one item, because if we didn't do this, it would return a list of just this item, which we don't want. So in the name, we actually do want to remove the tags. So we're going to want to use the input processor. So when the data comes in, we can run the remove tags function on it using map compose. So let's do input processor is equal to map compose, and now we can run the remove tags function. But we still want to actually access the output processor as well. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to use that here. In the Scrapy.field for the price, we're going to do exactly the same here, but we want to actually write our own function to clean this data up as well. So we're going to write up, let's just remove this pass. We're going to write our own function in here. So we're going to say define, and this is going to be remove currency. If you remember, if you noticed that when we were scraping the data, it was returning it without the currency symbol, but when we do it like this and we remove the tags, we would actually end up with a currency symbol. So I'm going to make sure in this function that we remove that $, and we actually make sure that it's a floating point value. So I'm going to just return float, and we're going to say text.replace the $, with nothing. And now we can actually do this remove currency on the map compose. We can do remove tags and remove currency. We don't actually need these in here for remove tags. That's fine. So again, this might look a little bit confusing, especially if you've never used the item loader before, but all we're doing is we are passing the item information that we get from the website in here and just doing a little bit of data manipulation on it. So let's open up the terminal now and see if anywhere we went wrong, and let's run our caller again. And hopefully we get the data back, and you can see it coming by now. So let's scroll up and we can see that we have the name and the price and the SKU returning nice and neatly from going through our item and our item loader. Now, what the benefit of this is that if for any reason one of these products didn't have a SKU or that didn't have a price or something like that, we would only pick up the information that was there. It wouldn't cause the rest of our program to fail. So this is as far as we're going to go in this video. We've basically taken the SKU, the name and the price data from each of the pages in each of the products using Scrapy as our framework. We've done pagination, and I've showed you how to use the items and item loader classes to make it easier and more neat and tidy when you actually want to pull that data out. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to save this information into an SQLite database. If you haven't used SQLite before, check out my video from last week. I'll put that up here, which will show you more about SQLite and how to use it with Python.